So let's just start with the issue, I suppose, really, at hand, which is how threatened or otherwise MPs are at the moment. Priti Patel obviously is certain that you are. What's the option then? You know, should we be having close protection at all times? Should you have a close protection officer sat next to you right now? You know, how should it work?
Well, look, let me try and set the context. Even at the memorial service, so we paid tributes in the House of Commons, and then we went across to St Margaret's Church, Parliament's Church, as it's known, and we had a memorial service, and just about every MP that had been in the chamber processed across for them. As we were having the memorial service, as the service was going on and we're hearing readings and singing hymns, there were a large group of protesters outside, behind barriers, banging drums and honking horns, whilst a memorial service was going on, right? And then yesterday, and I still have trouble believing this happened, a group of protesters, I think they were anti-vaxxers, I'm not honestly sure, were arrested by the police in Parliament Square under the Public Order Act for erecting a gallows. Now, look, I believe passionately in free speech. You know, we fought for that. You know, our forebears. My father, Stoker First Class, Reginald Francois, was on a minesweeper at D-Day. I've still got all his old naval papers, right? But in terms of taste and decency, to erect a mock gallows in Parliament Square a few days after an MP has been brutally murdered doing his job is beyond sick.
Yeah.
And the reason I mention that, you know, I'm here partly to call that out, right, is to try and give your viewers some idea of what it's like to be a Member of Parliament. And on top of all of that, and perhaps we'll want to come on to this in a minute, you know, you get endless online abuse.
Yes.
So that is why I called on Monday for what I'm calling David's Law, which would clamp down on the ability of people to abuse those in public life, particularly being able to do it anonymously.
And let me pick up on that. I think you said you drag Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey, dragging and screaming if you have to face accountability of not getting on top of the issue of social media abuse. Are we conflating a few things here, do you think, in terms of where threats from MP are coming from? Yes, there's loads of threats. Lots of MPs have reported death threats, for example.
Yes.
The police have intervened in many of these instances. But there's also the threat from terrorists, isn't there? So how do we deal with those things in conjunction without necessarily conflating them into one broad?
Well, OK. I mean, I gave one example in the Commons on Monday of a social media attack, really, on Nadine Dorries 3 years ago, long before she became the Culture Secretary, where someone said, I want to see you trapped in a burning car and I want to see the flames melt the flesh off your face. Now, whether or not you like your local MP, whether you think they're doing a good job or a bad job, whether you approve of their politics, no one deserves that, right? And if you push most MPs a little bit, they'll tell you that they've nearly all had death threats.
Yes.
You know, so no, my point is, I feel strongly, I'm sorry, why should you have to put up with that just to do your job, to represent the people who chose you democratically in an election? They could have voted for somebody else, but they voted for someone to be their MP. Why should that person have to live their life with rubbish like that?